Dave Weinberg from the Press of Atlantic City, who joins us for his regular conversation on this team. As we're halfway through, Dave, how surprised were you? Not that Howie made a deal, but that he made a significant deal for the stretch run here.
Yeah, I was very surprised. I mean, I was expecting maybe an offensive lineman or a linebacker for them to not only add a running back, to add a guy who rushed for 1,200 yards last year. That was actually shocking.
Yeah, they get Jay Ajayi, who has struggled a little bit this year, and there's been some murmurs about his knee or the fact that maybe he was malcontent a little bit down there. What kind of vibes you get from him today when he got a chance to speak?
He was very contrite, and at the same time very anxious to put all that stuff behind him and move on with the Eagles. He seemed like really excited to be with the team, and when you're joining a team at 7-1, it's hard not to get psyched about it. But he just said all that stuff was in the past. He's always viewed himself as a team player. I mean, there's probably some evidence to suggest otherwise at times, but he seems really interested in just moving forward and joining the Eagles and helping them get to the ultimate goal.
Okay, well, do you anticipate that he'll play on Sunday?
If so, very sparingly. I think it's just a little too early for him to absorb that much of the playbook and to get that comfortable with the team. Plus, you got the bye coming up to next week, so that gives him an extra week to prepare and everything. So, I would think he might maybe get a carry or two, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's inactive.
Obviously, you've got a logjam at running back, Dave. So give us how you envision Jay Ajayi fitting in maybe after the bye week and through the stretch run here with LeGarrette Blount, Wendell Smallwood, Corey Clement, and obviously Kenyon Barner is going to have to be active on game day because he's the key return guy, the punt return man.
Right. I don't think this is very good news for Wendell Smallwood. He only got a couple carries against San Francisco. Seems to have fallen out of favor a little bit. I don't know if it's because of his nagging injuries or what, but I got to have a feeling that Jay Ajayi is going to take his carries away, and maybe Corey Clements too. And I think you'll see more of like a two-headed monster with LeGarrette and Jay in there, I would think.
Hey, Dave, where do you think Ajayi helps out the most? Is it the run game, the passing game, maybe pass protection? Does he really become the lead guy in pass protection situations?
Yeah, I think he views himself, Pete, he views himself more as a three-down back anyway. And I think his real value is in the last two things that you mentioned, as a receiver and as a pass protector. Those are two things that they've kind of been lacking. The Eagles' offense has kind of been lacking. And from what I understand, I mean, he's such a good receiver that the Boise State, and maybe even with the Dolphins, they would actually line him up out wide as a receiver. He's not a guy who just comes out of the backfield and catches swing passes. He can actually run routes and stuff. So that makes him that much more valuable. And they need they need more people to protect Carson Wentz because he's been taking a beating there for the first half of the season. So if you can get a running back there, and Ajayi's a pretty big physical guy, 225 pounds. So, if he can keep the guys off of Wentz a little bit, that's even a bigger asset.
So does he essentially fill the Darren Sproles role on the offense, because they've been looking for somebody to replace him since Sproles went down? I guess they tried out Smallwood. It was like, here's your audition. Whoop, you're out.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's hard to imagine, given, like I said, the fact that he's like 225 pounds, but he's a pretty versatile guy like Darren was. I don't think he has Darren's speed. Doesn't have Darren's versatility as a punt returner, obviously. But he does bring that receiving element to the table that they've been lacking since Darren got hurt. So, yeah, I think he does. I think he's going to play a pretty big role in the offense, similar to what Darren played.
Dave Weinberg from the Press of Atlantic City. Dave, does he have enough speed, though, that the other guys seem to – the Eagles run the ball pretty well, but they're a grinded-out running attack. I mean, you'll see Blount kind of break off a 14-yarder or a 22-yarder, but they can't really get past that second level. They don't have that kind of speed, that breakaway speed. That's something that Jay Ajayi really adds to this offense all of a sudden.
Yeah, he's that home run hitter that they haven't had. I know there was kind of a knock on him in Miami a little bit, that he tried to – sometimes, make too much out of things that just weren't there. But you're right. When the opportunity is there, he's probably the only guy. I'm kind of surprised that they would take so much the offense away from Smallwood, because I kind of thought he had that potential too, but maybe just the injuries and stuff were just nagging on him too much. But anyway, yeah, I think Ajayi is the guy who can take a carry for 50, 60 yards, whereas LeGarrette did it against San Diego, or excuse me, against the Los Angeles Chargers, but he's not a guy you're gonna see break a long one every game like Ajayi has that. He has that capability.
Hey, Dave, does this mean Howie Roseman's all in at this moment?
It looks that way, yeah. You got to be impressed with the stuff that he's done to this point. The moves that he's made before the season, during the season. Yeah, I think that this kind of signifies that the Eagles are they're not going to be content with just, making the playoffs and maybe perhaps, hosting a first-round game. I think that when you add a guy of this caliber, that's an indication that you're aiming for a bigger prize.
Yeah, this is as you wrote about over at PressOfAtlanticCity.com, Dave, that this is kind of a big catch for them. This is their moment of saying, we recognize in the NFL, when you have your moment, you got to go after it, and they did it here. So they went out and landed something pretty big here, which I guess now puts, the bullseye on them. If they thought they were under the radar, they're no longer there.
Oh, sure. I mean, being 7-1 is enough of a target, but yeah, when you add a guy like that, that makes it even bigger. They're the team to beat in the NFC now. There's no question about that. I mean, they have a 2-game lead in the division. Nobody else has one loss in the entire league, so you got to view them as Super Bowl contenders. And I mean, the Eagles certainly view themselves that way. But you're right. There's going to be a lot of pressure on them coming down the stretch here. There's some tough games coming up. Seattle, the Rams. There's some, even the Raiders who have been falling apart lately, but they still have that potential. But yeah, there's no. I think the schedule's going to get tougher as it is, but when you add that pressure, that makes it even harder. So it's going to be interesting to see how they handle it.
So, Dave, was there excitement in the locker room at this edition? Because there was some concern bringing a new guy in, but sometimes good teams get excited to get a little bit more talent, and they like knowing that the people in the upstairs offices and the front office, that they're going for it.
Yeah, there's definitely a sense of excitement. When Carson Wentz was one of the first guys to text Ajayi when he got traded. Alshon Jeffrey seemed pretty amped about it. I think LeGarrette Blount is the guy that you really have to wonder about, though. I mean, he talked a little bit today and just kept saying that these aren't my decisions, that I can only control what I can control. He didn't exactly embrace the fact that the new guy was here. So it's going to be an interesting dynamic on how that unfolds. But I know LeGarrette has a little bit of reputation as similar to Ajayi about being a selfish player. But I have to say, just personally, the way my dealings with him, he's been the perfect teammate from what I can see. Been really funny, outgoing, honest. The way he handled himself after the Kansas City game, after not getting a single carry, I thought that spoke a lot to his maturity and his potential leadership in the team too. So maybe he was just a little shocked at the trade was made, but I think as time goes on, he'll accept it as a welcome addition to the team.
And Dave, you've said on our show before that that an underrated asset of LeGarrette Blount has been his leadership, that they look up to him because he's won that Super Bowl.
Yeah, he's not like the most outspoken guy, but I have a feeling that he is in the locker room, and he is in the running back room. He's a guy who's been there, and not too many guys have him. Chris Long's the only one, I guess. But LeGarrette's got 2 Super Bowl rings, and that gives him a special status in that locker room that not everybody has any. I mean, not too many teams. Not too many players even have one. So the fact that he's been there and he knows what it takes to get back there, that gives him a certain status within the team, I think.
Yep, and obviously getting Jay Ajayi in here gives the Eagles another status, as Dave Weinberg wrote about. They got another big prize in there, and now halfway through the season here, they're 7-1. They got the second half to go. What is, right now, what is your take on, Vaitai playing the left tackle spot? Did he settle you down watching him on Sunday against San Francisco?
I think there's still a level of concern there. I mean, he's definitely not Jason Peters, but aside from the one mistake where he gave the sack, I thought he did okay. He's not a Pro Bowl tackle by any means, but I think he's reliable and serviceable enough and I think he'll get better as the year goes on too. So I think that's probably one of the reasons why they didn't trade for a tackle. I think they have a lot of confidence that Vaitai will be able to get the job done.
They also didn't trade for a linebacker, and they're going to go with what they got. But Michael Kendricks has played really well. I mean, they're lucky they didn't end up. There was a lot of people that were done with Kendricks and wanted them to trade him. Chip Kelly said, "No, I'm going to sign him." Well, good for Chip, huh?
Yeah. I mean, Kendricks wanted to be traded, so it's kind of good that they didn't because he's been very impressive. Probably one of the more impressive defensive players to this point. He hasn't gotten a lot of opportunities, but when he's had them, he's made the most of them. And he even spoke about that to us after the game on Sunday. That that's kind of what this job is about. He said, I've been here 6 years. I know how to play football. It's just a matter of getting the opportunities to show what I can do. And he really did that against the 49ers, and I would expect him to keep doing it as the season goes on.
Dave Weinberg from the Press of Atlantic City looking at the Eagles, getting ready for Denver. Denver, by the way, making a quarterback change. They're going to go with Brock Osweiler over Trevor Siemian there. And, this will be interesting because the Eagles now, this is the third game of this 3-game homestand. Then they got the bye, so the bye comes at a very interesting time for them. And then they got Dallas with potentially, it looks like no Ezekiel Elliott here. It seems that the schedule has really, set up nicely for them because you're getting Denver now in a week where they're changing quarterbacks on you. It seems that a lot of things have kind of bounced the Eagles' way, and you start to get that weird feeling all of a sudden, Dave.
Yeah, there's kind of like the stars are aligning almost in their favor. You're right. There's like that sense that everything seems to be falling in the right place at the right time. Again, it's probably too early to talk in those kind of terms, but yeah, you have to wonder if maybe this really is, that they're kind of destined to go to the Super Bowl this year.
Special.
The way everything is planned out. I hate to talk in those terms yet, but it's certainly shaping up like that.
Yeah.
Dave, what do you think we'll learn when they go up against, like a Von Miller and a Cade Talib and Chris Harris? Because Denver may have questions on offense, but their defense still has some pretty good talent.
Yeah, they do, and that's kind of the reason why they left Lane Johnson on the right side because it seems like teams are more apt or more prone to put their elite pass rushers on the left side of the defense now for whatever reason. I'm not sure why, but Lane has been going against good guys, elite guys, almost every game, and Von Miller is definitely one, no exception to that. Plus he's got Khalil Mack from Oakland coming up, a couple other guys. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Lane kind of struggled a little bit, I thought, against the 49ers, but I don't know if that was just anxiety or whatever or anxiousness, but he has a lot. He's definitely a very talented guy, and once he gets, when he plays up to his potential, there's not a better right tackle in the league. But they're going to need him to play up to that potential in the second half of the year.
And I did see that the Broncos struggle at covering the tight end, and of course, Zach Ertz fantasy owners out there go woohoo! Click.
It's good news for Mike Trout too, huh?
Yeah, maybe you can get another football.
Yeah, there you go.
He's been piling them up over there, and that's because Ertz has been piling up in the end zone there. He has really given them another weapon. But real quick, Dave, I want to ask you, and I think you wrote about Jalen Mills. He was named the NFC Defensive Player of the Week. I thought it was a cool story about how Schwartz and Jenkins and Rodney McLeod, and they all kind of busted his chops that, all right, you can intercept passes, but you can't take them back to the end zone. And then he goes and does it. I thought that was a neat little story about Mills this weekend.
Yeah, that kind of speaks to the bond that the positions players have with each other. Like Malcolm was saying after the game, and even Jalen too, that yeah, they had been ragging on him about you have 3 picks now, but now's the first one you finally got it to the end zone, and they've been kind of ragging him on him a little bit, but it was nice to see for Jalen to take him to the house like that because I know he's been wanting that for a long time.
All right, Dave Weinberg from the Press of Atlantic City. The Eagles getting ready for the Broncos this weekend, and you can hear the game right here on 97.3 ESPN. And last thing before we let you run here, Dave, obviously
sure.
The Eagles made this big move here, and Doug Peterson, he's going to have the decisions to make. Howie had said, well, Blount, but overall, it seems that Doug is going to have the big decision on his hand, how he handles all this. Do you think that Doug seemed like, man, this is really cool that I got another weapon, another toy?
Yeah, I think he's looking forward to it.
Okay.
It's going to be a challenge to figure out.
Like
ways
they
to
didn't
use
say,
those
"Hey,
guys.
we're going to get you this. Figure out how to use them." He seemed like he embraced that. Hey, I got a nice little piece here.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but I think Doug is. I think he's excited about the possibilities. I mean, he's an offensive guy, and the more weapons you give him, the more creative he can be. The more versatility that comes with the offense. So I think it's going to be a good thing for him.
Okay, one more. I lied. Darby limited today. Do you feel Darby plays this weekend?
I don't see why they would, honestly. Seems the secondary is playing pretty well, like I mentioned with Jalen. Defense is doing pretty well right now, so I think it's better off. Maybe you just rest Ronald one more week. You got the bye week coming up, like you said. So I think he rests and then he makes his return against Dallas.
Hey, Dave, what about Sidney Jones? Do we see him this year?
I'm sorry, what?
What about Sidney Jones? Do we see him this year?
No, I don't think so, unless there's another injury or something. As similar with Darby, I don't think you need him. I mean, if you did, then I think he might be ready to play like in another month maybe. But I don't think he's quite there yet, and they're definitely not rushing him. And the way the secondary's been playing and the way the other guys have stepped, like Rasul Douglas, Patrick Robinson, those kind of guys, I think they might be better off just holding on to Sidney until next year.
And Patrick Robinson out of the concussion protocol?
Right.
All right. So
I don't know. Actually, he must have practiced today because he didn't list him as out, so I guess he is out of it.
Yep. Yeah, he is listed as full participant today. Only guy on the only guy on the injury list for the whole week listed as
Darby,
limited was Darby. That's it. All right, Dave. Dave Weinberg.
That's another reason why they think the Stars might be aligned. Yeah. I mean, they've had don't get me wrong, they've had a slew of injuries, but the guys that are available to play are staying pretty healthy.
It's halfway through. It's a battle of attrition. It's not always the best team; it's the healthiest team.
This is true. Very true.
Dave Weinberg from the Press of Atlantic City. Thank you, Dave.
All right, thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Okay, man. Dave.
Tonight.
Say that again.
I said enjoyed Game 7
Oh,
tonight.
yeah, I saw. You've got Sandy Koufax against Nolan Ryan, right?
That's right. Yeah, it should be a good pitcher's duel. Got Dunn Sutton in the bullpen. There you go.
All right, pal. Take care. Dave Weinberg's appearance on the show brought to you by Wind Supply and Absecon Contractors and Builders. Wind Supply wants your attention and your business. Wind Supply and Absecon is a better source for all your plumbing and heating supplies online at windsupplyabsecon.com.